So, thank you. Right, so we're coming up to the month of Elul, a month of introspection. So it says in the Kutzatera with a mimer that has this beginning. Hashaychos de Elul Anilu Daily. So the word Elul is Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, which spells out Anilu Daily. I am to my beloved to me. So it says in the Kutzatera, what's the connection of Elul to Anilu Daily? Elul hu Elul is what's called a Srusilatata. There are three ways that a person has a connection to Hashem. Either you get excited about God, or God reveals himself to you, or ideally you have both at the same time. Ani l'daidi, I am to my beloved. Rosh Hashanah v'yom kippurim hi amshacha m'mayl lamata. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you draw down from above to below. In other words, you coming to God is Elul. God coming to you is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. However, what you manage to draw down on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, this is based on what you put into it in the month of Elul. And this is what it says, that Elul is the Rosh Tevis Anila Dede V'Dedli Shagam V'Dedli Nichlav Rosh Tevis Elul. Ki Heisirusa Delatat Shabela Anila Dede Gam Akdam Lam Shacha V'Dedli Shabrash Yom Kippur. So Elul is what makes Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So if you want to have a good Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you have to have a good Elul. Like if you want to be able to take out of the bank account, you got to put into the bank account. Tzarech Birkim Zesha Ha'isios Vav Lamed Rosh Tevis V'Dedli Heim Tevis Elul Asma. So he's saying, but we have to understand, because it seems that it's not only that we're drawing down God on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It seems that actually the month of Elul there's also a drawing down of God. So this is the question. What's going on? The Maimon continues, Elul is a time of the 13 Midos Harachim, the 13 attributes of mercy. Even though Elul is a time of Anila Daidi, which is down below to above, nevertheless, it's the thought of a person, especially a person who's distant from God. This is, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, feel free to take it. In other words, it's like a car. You need to press the gas, but in order to press the gas, you have to jump start the car. So Hashem gives us a jump start. He helps us get inspired in a very subconscious way that we should be drawn to Him. So this revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy, which comes to every single Jew, even to Jews who are very, very distant. This is the opportunity from above to do Anila Date. So in other words, it's not that God is the one that causes you to come to God. It's only what's called an empowerment. It's an enabler. But the one that actually makes the choice is you. But the in a certain sense, there's something better in Elul than Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. What's better than Elul and Rosh Hashanah? Because in Elul, it's not that Hashem draws you close. You are drawing yourself close. But in Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, there's a divine energy there that draws you close. So in a certain sense, it's greater when you make a choice than when Hashem is the one that makes a revelation. So I'm just thinking about something. The main thing is actually the main thing when we're talking about koyach atzmai, that you are the one to make a difference. This is in the month of El. You want a coffee?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. In order to understand these two things of the 13 attributes of mercy of Elul, that the revelation of Elul is to all people, even those that are very distant. Nevertheless, this revelation doesn't inspire the person who acts in his koyach. It's only an empowerment. The Maimer continues. The revelation of 13 attributes of mercy in Elul is similar to the king in a field. What's the difference between it when a king is in the field and when a king is in his palace? There are two things. First of all, the type of revelation that's taking place. And when is the main time that you see the glory of the king in his beautiful garments, etc.? This is when the king is in his throne room. He's there with his beautiful garments, and he's there with his beautiful crown. However, when he is in the field, he's wearing more, he wears jeans and some, a suede jacket or something. However, the revelation itself is mainly when he is in the field. So in other words, even though when the king is in his throne room, he seems so great, nevertheless, where do you get to really feel the king when he's in the field? Because when he's in his throne room, very few people get to see him. The ones who get to go in are the very, very important people. However, when he's in the field, when he's in the field, anybody can come in. And the king accepts them all with a beautiful face. And he shows them all a friendly face. Similarly, in the Nimshal, so Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, whatever happens, arouses our heart. It's like the king in his throne. That this makes us feel a sense of awe and dread before the king. But in order for a person to feel what can be felt in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, this is if you precede it with preparing in the month of Elul. Because then you become one of the special people. The Yechidei school of one of the VIPs. They get to go into the throne of the king. And the revelation of Elul, which is similar to a king in the field. This is in a way that the revelation does not inspire the person. It's only an empowerment. However, this empowerment comes to everybody. Whoever wants to come close to Hashem in the month of Elul has the opportunity. So in other words, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur will work for the person who prepared an Elul. You have to become a VIP. But in order to prepare an Elul, anybody has the power to prepare. The Dugma Smelach Fasad is similar to a king in the field. When the king is in the field, it doesn't make anybody fear him. Especially the people that are in the field, that is their normal place. The irony is that when the king is in the field and when he's most accessible, then people don't even take advantage of it. He's the king, he's in the field, what's the big deal? People have this desire to see greatness. Oh, when he's in his palace, I want to go see him. In other words, in order to go inspire yourself, you have to work very hard, because a person, when something's accessible to a person, they don't actually care about it. The irony of human nature is we want what we don't have. But the ability to actually get to the king is because the king is in the field. Because then when he's in the field, everybody has the permission to go see the king. We have to understand, seemingly, in order to explain that the revelation of Elul, an empowerment that comes through this to every single person again. So why is it important to say in this example that the king shows a smiling face to everyone? Especially okay, it's a little complicated. Ain't a moving, so it doesn't make sense. I'm shocked if he was to make Shiva. So the question is, it would seem that this idea that the king is very happy to see everybody after they come out to see him applies to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. How does it apply to Elul? I'm sorry, Lav and Shnei Yonim Shum Makablam Seif Panim Yaf Shemar Lahem Panim Seichiko Yisugam Shem Negelim Kablam Eimer Seif Panim Yafis Negelim Mara Lahem Eimer Panim Seichis. So the explanation is Behektim. You have to preface. One second, please. Behektim Shechidish Bagili Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim Be'Elul. Lagabe Agil V'Rashanim Kippur Hu B'Shnein Yonim. Let me see if anybody wanted to. Okay. So what's unique about the revelation of 13 attributes of mercy in Elul regarding the revelation that comes in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, it is in two things. Number one, in order to achieve the revelation of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, this comes about through a very strong avodah, very strong service to God. In order to get the revelation of Elul, there only has to be the going out and seeing the king. Benimshal, who is Seder Hakabalas Elmach Shamayim. In other words, in Elul, all you have to do is you have to believe that you have to serve God. So once you say, I'm here to serve God, so then you're like receiving the king. Not only does Elul come to the Jewish people, but even people that are in the desert, so far away. Revelation of Elul comes to them. This is also obvious when you keep in mind that these 13 attributes of mercy, this gives us an ability to do tshuva. So tshuva obviously is for somebody who needs it. So therefore you see that Elul comes to every Jew no matter where he is. Tshuva kapshutai yalinyana built to the same, but as midbar tshuva hu al pikasel. This is a very interesting thing. What is the main tshuva? Remember, I had a conversation once that I was in a class in the Rabbi Kesselman from South Africa. He said that all sins are the same sin. I thought, what are you talking about? He quoted from the Rebbe Marash. He says, all sins boil down to one sin. What's the one sin that causes all sins? The one sin that causes all sins. Oh, so that a person doesn't fear God. A person who has the fear of God, he won't do any sin. Person, it's called prikaso, meaning everybody by nature knows there's a God. Everyone knows they should follow God. Obviously, you have many Jews who are brought up without religion, so it's our obligation to teach them. It's different. But certainly somebody that was brought up religiously, they know what they should be doing. So why aren't they doing it? It's called prikaso. It's like an ox. He knows he should plow the ground. Why isn't he doing it? Because he's lazy. Doesn't want it. Well, it's just an example. So, yeah, richtig. Yeah, absolutely. Got a good point there. Right. Mm-hmm. That's right. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. The moving from this, we understand Shegilu de Elul who gam le'ila shem b'tachas. So from this we understand that the revelation of Elul is even to people that are very distant. They have prikasot. So what does it say in the Maimon that the revelation of Elul is in the field and not in the midbar? The revelation of Elul is not in the things that are opposite the will of Hashem. Rather, it is in the Jewish people that are in the desert. Well, PC Shlemet the Mashkas ba Mam Shamel Makabos Kulam Sev Panim Yafas Akavanam Possession Madish Kulam he Shikam El Shem Akret Malakos Pnei Melech El Shem Shfuyim Bidei Yitram the Gam Kishemes Eiratzlam Rotzen Lasses Chuba the Kabbalim Omach Shamayim Ein Zeba Bapayil Gam Eisum Hu Makabos Sev Panim Yafas so even the people that are not ready to accept the king, but they just come out to see him, they're not people that are ready to do his will. Even them, Hashem is very happy to see them. When they see the great light that Hashem shines on them. In fact, it's an interesting teaching of Hashem. He says there are two ways a person can do tshuva. One is obvious that things can be pretty rough. Nobody's that stupid that not to believe when things are bad. They say no atheist in a foxhole. However, the fact of the matter is that when a person has the opposite, maybe they don't deserve the love, but they get so much love, like the Jews in Egypt. They didn't deserve it, but they were so overwhelmed by the love that then you say, wow, I love this guy. I want to do his will. So in fact, the very fact that the king shows him, like the Rebbe showed everybody a beautiful, smiling face, so they wanted to make the Rebbe happy. This is a secret in life, that if we show people a sour face, so they're not exactly that in the mood, but if we show somebody a happy face, even our enemies will want to be nice to us. It continues in the Maimer, that it shows a happy face to everyone. The Chilip Makabel Sev Panam Yafaz Amara Panam Sachres who lost Makabel Nefeld over Shesham Makadam. Then she Kibel Makabel said over Mara Panam Sachres who Sha upon Sachres Shalesh Yasham Gamas Nation Mara who Mara Magal Ism was lost. Zel Lach Hashem Shamelach Makabel Kulam Sev Panam Yafaz makes you Mara Panam Sachres Kulam. The Zashu who Makabel Sev Panam Yafaz Moister shu mar panu sekres zulum. Ze shu makabel b'sev panu yafas hu shal rotzen da lahakbel spnei melech miskabel eitzel melech b'sev panu yafas v'yisafa the mar panu sekres hu shmesayru b'rotzen lasses tshuva nimshach lo yagilu the panu sekres l'mal l'tain. So when we decide to do tshuva, we decide to come close to Hashem. This arouses a deep joy in God. Tang said, "Who don't mind my tang? The beginning of Spanish Hashem Mercedes true. We're makamach the share shall speak. Panam seich guys, uba atzmus atainuk. The essence of joy itself. Tainuk asked me ability mukam shal amayim tainuk. So it's like a child that comes home. You're just so happy to see the child. You don't need anything more than that. Okay, just a quick recap. What we were speaking about was that we're approaching the month of Elul, right? So now we're on what's today's date in Hebrew?
12.
The 12th of Av. So we're approaching Elul, and Elul is going to be approximately in 2.5 weeks. Now, the Rebbe says a very, very important concept. And there's a very general concept, very critical concept, and that is that there are 3 ways to have a relationship with God. The first is that you come to God, you're seeking the truth, and you find God. The second is that God reveals himself to you. So there are many people, in fact, interesting study, people that have a divine experience, it really enhances their life forever. Very powerful thing. And in a way, the Jews at Mount Sinai, they had a divine experience. In fact, it says that there was once a great rabbi who went to find that generation died in the desert. And obviously, people that are righteous, I don't know if you know this, but the body doesn't decompose. So there was a great rabbi who saw them. He said their faces were like they were in bliss and ecstasy. Can you imagine? You saw all of that. However, the best is when you have both together. Why? Because there's a limitation. When you find God, the God you find is limited based on your own understanding. On the other hand, when God finds you, even though it's unlimited, it's not necessarily you. For example, if somebody comes and shows you great love. So by nature, love begets love. But it may not be that it was something that you chose. Maybe it's something that you're reacting to. And the deepest part of a human being is something that they choose. That's why, in a way, a spouse is the deepest love a person has. Because even though the love that you have for a parent is very deep, but something that you choose in a certain sense is even deeper. But if you have both together, that you have Hashem's choice of you and your choice of Hashem, it's a very big concept. There are thousands of talks and on this concept. But anyway, very briefly. So the month of Elul, the example is it's like a king. The king leaves his palace and goes into the field. And anybody can come and say hello to him. So this is where the person inspires himself, because the king in the field is not so awesome. Everybody wants to go to the palace. It's cool. It's amazing. But a king is in the field. It's not naturally so attractive to people to go. So he gives the opportunity to people to come to him. Now, it's still up to the person to inspire himself to go. But if you imagine you go to the king, and then the king says, aha, these people, they came to me when it wasn't cool. Now it's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Now I'm in my palace. They have a VIP pass. The same thing in a certain sense, that Mashiach obviously will save everybody. But those of us who are fortunate enough to await his coming, says the second question we get when we're in heaven, did you await the coming of Mashiach? Those get a VIP pass when Mashiach actually comes. So it says that when the people come to the king is very happy to see them. So the example that I gave is like a parent that the child comes home, right? So a healthy parent the very existence of the child brings them joy. Ah, my child is home. The essential love that God has for us is not what we do for him. It's like every parent wants their child to do good, to be proud of their child. But the core love that you have for their child is because it's your child. Right? The parents that unfortunately have children that have disabilities, and they dedicate their lives to caring for their child. Yeah. So the point is that the essential core love that a parent, that Hashem has, he's the ultimate parent for us, is because you exist. You don't have to prove your existence to God. He made all existence because of your existence. The Tainuk Zehu Ba'atz was the core love of God. Right? We know the very famous thing. It says, Beis Rashis. There are two primary reasons why Hashem made the world. One is for the Torah. The other is for the Yidden. The question is, what comes first? A lot of people would say, if I ask you a question, what's more important? The Jewish people or the Torah? So Yidden is already a big Talmud Chacham. Right.
It's not you.
Right. So, but by nature, a person might think the Torah is so great. We worship the Torah. We're studying the Torah. But actually, who was the Torah written for? It was written for you. We're the ones that the Torah were given for. Why was the world made? It was made for us. So who is the primary reason of all existence, including the Torah? including all the angels. In a certain sense, you could even say including the Rebbes, because the Rebbes came to help us in our service. Little us nothing, is the reason of the creation. So why? Because that's the nature of love. You love your child, and we're God's child. וידי שמר להם פנים שכל ששתיים זה המסגל לאדם וסר ברופן לשוב אז הם רסן כמובן פנים לפנים התיינוג בליכוז. So when you realize how much pleasure God takes in you, you saw this very much by the Rebbe. It says tzaddikim are similar to their creator. A person came to the Rebbe had such love for them, it attracted. Somebody once came to the Rebbe, he was a smart guy, he started to become Chabad. So he said, Rebbe, everything I like. There's one thing I don't understand. It seems that your Hasidim, your disciples, have like kind of a almost a like a beyond normal love for you. So the Rebbe says, yes, I have a beyond normal love for them. So when you find that somebody has this great love for you, till this very day, everybody can go to the oil. You can millions of blessings that are coming out. So when a person realizes how beloved they are to someone else, especially somebody that's so great, this makes them love them back. Yeah, yeah. So these are great questions, and the answer to the question is as follows. Um, the truth of the matter is that obviously God, as a creator, loves all his creations. Even if you made a cockroach, you would see the beauty in the cockroach. In fact, the only things that survived the Hiroshima and Nagasaki were the cockroaches. There's a great beauty in cockroaches. So everyone, and certainly a human being, which is the prime of God's creation, is very, very precious and beloved to God. At the same time, in the absolute design, when we study mysticism, what it tells us, the absolute, there always is. I mean, obviously, God didn't make the world for cockroaches. That wasn't his intention, even though he must have a certain love for everything he made. It says that God calls each star by its name. What is a star ultimately? It's just a big fire. So, but when you make something beautiful, and everything in this world is beautiful, you have a love for it. In fact, it says that when the Egyptians were drowning, so these were very cruel, savage people, the angels were singing praises to God because he had saved the Jews. And God said, the work of my hand is drowning and you're singing praises. So I must understand that God has sensitivity and love for everything he made. However, in the absolute truth of how things function, this world was designed for freedom of choice. And in order to have freedom of choice, somebody once asked the Rebbe, why are there a billion Chinese? So the Rebbe said, first of all, look at your jacket, which was, of course, made in China. And second of all, the Rebbe said, I can't verify the story, but I mean, I'm just saying a story that I heard. I can't say I know it for sure. The Rebbe said, before freedom of choice. In other words, it says clearly in the Torah, "Atem hama'at mikol ha'amim." If everybody was Jewish and practicing Judaism, there would be no freedom of choice. Because, you look at society today, how many people do very silly things just because of peer pressure. So peer pressure is a very powerful psychological motive. And so therefore, for there to be freedom of choice, there has to be a perfect balance between kind of an amorphous truth, something that you know is right, but something that you don't necessarily want to do for various reasons, most of them being peer pressure. And so now we have true freedom of choice. And the second question that you asked, which is that the reason there's anti-Semitism? So the answer is that to some extent, yes, that is the reason. I was watching yesterday, there are these clashes on the Temple Mount. These Fashtunkana Arabs, they have the size of their land is 300 times the size of Israel. The Temple Mount is this tiny, tiny space. It's not, what is it, like a football field or a couple football fields? What's everybody going crazy? In Jerusalem, the whole world, the Catholic Church, everybody's looking for Jerusalem. I had a friend, a very spiritual guy, smart guy. He said that Jerusalem and the Temple Mount are the most valuable real estate in the world. And I have no doubt, if you, God forbid, auctioned, it will go for billions. A tiny space. Why? What exactly is in us? People cannot be impartial to the Jewish people. One second, hold on. Somebody else wants to join us. Esty, how are you? Oi, 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 oi. Esty, what's your Jewish name? Yeah. Esther Dvar Basar. Okay, we're dedicating our class now that you should not only have a healing, you should be dancing to Mashiach. Do you want? Do you have? You're welcome. If you have time, you can join the class now. I don't know what your schedule is like. Okay. Okay. So so I'll merge you in and then just hang up, and then please do call me back once you do know. Okay. Okay. So yes, and we have our dear dear friend SD with us, and we just had a question from a wonderful young lady. So she asked, because we mentioned that God created the world, one of the primary reasons the Jewish people, so is that the reason for anti-Semitism? So we're saying that it's interesting. You take a look at the Temple Mount, tiny piece of real estate, and yet the whole world, Jerusalem, the whole world's going crazy for it. So, and the same thing's about the Jews. People are not impartial to the Jews. They either love them or they hate them. Nobody is impartial to them. What's the reason for that? The reason is because ultimately, that which is precious is valuable and it's valued. And so therefore, yes, if you are humble, and this is a key point, if you're humble, so when a person is humble, they value, right? When a person is humble, they can see, oh wow, that person is valuable. And in fact, there's a book, it's called The Israel Test. And the whole point of this book is, they say, let's say somebody's rich. How do you feel about them?
Very good.
And if you're like Yidel here, you feel very good, then you've passed the Israel test. If, like, somebody told me that you were in Russia, so you'd know if this is true, but he says, what's the difference between an American and a Russian? American sees a guy come with a Cadillac, and he says, oh, I like a Cadillac, I'm going to work hard to get a Cadillac. The Russian says, oh, he has a Cadillac, I'm going to tell the KGB. Is that is that right?
For the 4 years of Russia.
40 years in Russia, right?
Before they didn't know what Cadillac,
Right. But the point is that when a society is safe and humble, so it has to be safe, and it's a very big subject without going into all the details, but basically speaking, when people are safe and humble, so value other people that are valued, like Christians in the United States, they love Israel. 70% of the United States, 70% of India, a large part of China, they have a lot of respect for Israel, for the Jewish people. But respect can only come from a healthy heart. People who disrespect other people fundamentally have a certain self-hate. And therefore, often because they themselves have been disrespected. A bully, for example, is a victim of being bullied. And so therefore there's a jealousy of respect, because that's ultimately what people want. They want self-respect. They want that self-love. And so when they see a place and they see a people that has this love and they have this respect, it evokes a natural jealousy within them. And so therefore it's in fact interesting because it says that um, when when the when you need to go there. Here you go. Yeah, it says that when God gave us the Torah, it's called Mount Sinai. So it says, why is it called Sinai? Sheyarda Sina, because a hatred came to from basically a hatred came to the Jews. So what's this hatred? The hatred is jealousy, which is why those people who thank God are not jealous. In order to not be jealous, your circumstances have to be quite good. And that's in fact what the Rambam says. He says that when Mashiach comes, which to a large extent we're in those times now, at least certain countries are in those times, the times of great prosperity. So in times of prosperity, what happens is people are not jealous of each other because you have and I have. So why should I be jealous of you? So there, uh-huh. Right. So you see, right, communism created a great kind of financial. Basically, what it did was it made everybody poor. So, so if anybody had more, then people would be jealous of them. Why should you have more than me? No, look, I definitely am not wealthy, but I'm not poor either. So I have a decent car. I'm not jealous of somebody that has a better car because my car is fine. I don't need
Who
a
cares
better.
for my car?
Yiddel's car now. That's the car that makes me jealous. But the, but the point is that God forbid if somebody's in suffering and pain, it's not that difficult for them to be jealous. Even people that are close to each other, when a person somehow suffers, another person doesn't suffer, there can be a point of jealousy. So jealousy, so the times, the circumstances, you can't even blame people. I remember Esther, you said once that you're in your building, this guy was anti-Semitic towards your husband, and you asked you how you felt about him. He said you felt sorry for him, and that's the truth because anybody who really is an anti-Semite, they asked Freud to just kind of psychologically describe anti-Semitism. So he said miserable bastards. So I used to think that he was like making a joke, but then I realized no, that's a true psychological description. When people are miserable, what's a bully? Obviously he's miserable. If he wasn't miserable, he wouldn't be hurting somebody else. So misery creates a jealousy. And so anyway, so it's a very big subject, but Esther Chav, any further questions on the subject? Yeah, so you're bringing out some very, very profound and deep concepts. And the answer to your question is absolutely. In fact, there's a very fascinating medrash. I heard this from a rabbi, and it just shows you how it's clear. I mean, do you know that? I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And the rabbi obviously knew this, and he said it, but nobody could believe it. First of all, who were the Arabs in the minds of the Westerners? Some nomads, some nomads from Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia comes and he rounds them up. But the truth is, it was all predicted. There was a prophecy that Nebuchadnezzar saw a statue, and its head was of gold. Its arms, this was a dream he had. Its arms, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple as king of Babylonia. And its arms were of silver, its torso, its body was of copper, its legs were of iron, and some of its toes were made out of hardened dirt or clay, and some of them were made out of iron. Then a stone came and smashed the statue. The statue turned to dust. The dust blew away in the wind. The stone turned into a mountain. Nebuchadnezzar got upset because his wise men couldn't explain it, and he had his executioner come to kill all his wise men, as kings do when they don't like their wise men. And the executioner came to Daniel, and Daniel said, "Tell the king he doesn't have to kill everybody. I'll tell him the explanation." And so he says like this: God is showing you the future, and this is amazing because it's written 2,500 years ago, and it's come to pass in the 2,500 years. There will be four kingdoms. The kingdom of Babylonia is compared to gold. He was, in the end of the day, even though he was brutal, but he was a very wise person. The next kingdom was the kingdom of Persia, which was compared to silver. They were also pretty smart. The next kingdom was the kingdom of Greece, a little less smart. The next kingdom was the kingdom of Rome, which was completely dumb. And the difference in Rome, why would, each metal is a softer metal. The smarter someone is, usually the more malleable they are. But Rome was just power. So if you kick your foot against iron, what happens? The iron doesn't break, your foot gets hurt. And that's why the Jews under Edom, kind of the Christian Europe, was a savage exile, culminating with the Holocaust, of course. And then, at the end of times, which we're basically at the end of this, there would be a tussle of power between the Arabs. Who could have imagined the Arabs coming onto the world stage? And Rome. That's why some of the toes were made out of kind of this hardened dirt. And amazingly, why hardened dirt? Because what happens when you step on dirt? It crumbles. Every single war that the West fights with the Arabs and the Jews fight with the Arabs, they crumble. 6-day wars. I mean, we're talking Iraq war. It's like a joke. It's like a house of cards. They just crumble. But what's the significance of the stone and the statue? Because a statue is about pride. So all these empires, including the Arabs, are all based on the kind of greed and the kind of, if you want to call it, really based in low self-esteem, but the desire of narcissism, which is for basically money and power. And Mashiach is all about love and peace, and therefore the stone represents the destruction which has happened in a way of the value system of money and power, replaced with a value system of love and peace. Now, to conclude, Esther Chava, with what you said about the Arabs is a very profound concept. And the fact of the matter is, and this is something that very few people are aware of, but there's a medrash that says that I actually had an intuition. I spoke to a friend of mine who was a former PLO terrorist, who wrote a couple books on the mind of terror, once an Arafat man, so this was his conclusion as well. And he is an Arab, right? He was part of it. Basically, the Arabs hold, as a former KGB officer who defected said, an ancestral hate. And it says in the Medrash a fascinating thing. Because they were expelled from Israel, what actually happened was Yishmael was kicked out of the house. Now Yishmael, in his perception, he was going to get Israel. But he was kicked out. Where did he go? He went to Arabia. In fact, it says that Avraham Avinu later in his life went to visit him in Arabia, and he did tshuva. But he passed on this jealousy and this deep kind of, I don't know how you call it, this deep jealousy for or against Israel and the Jewish people. That's why it's an interesting thing. When the Jews, in fact, the Jews living under the Arabs fared better than we did living under the Christians. But, but, the moment the Jews got Israel, the Arabs went crazy. All over, there were pogroms. Literally, it was like you put a stick in a hornet's nest. Why? Because in their perception of reality, the Jews having Israel evoked such a deep, and I asked my friend, dude, he says they don't even know why they hate Jews. But it's there, it's so deeply, and it's amazing. There's this guy, Gil Schuster or something, and has this, you can ask him these YouTube questions. And he goes around asking Jews and Arabs, like, whatever, he'll ask the question. So one of the questions is, how much do you hate Jews? One Arab, to his credit, said, I don't hate everyone. But 95% of them, 1 out of 10, it was about 8. Why do you hate them? You're in their country. It's the only country where you have any freedom, any democracy. You got all the rights. And they're not running to the Palestinian territories. They're running away to live under the Jews. But their hatred is so innate that, anyway, but at this end of the day, we're really coming towards Mashiach's times, because we see, looks like there's going to be an Arab summit soon in Camp David, which they're recognizing Israel. I mean, obviously, Egypt and Jordan already did, and already, because this is the destruction of that sense of arrogance, where a person realizes that their whole attitude, in a way, the West already went through this process after the Holocaust. Because what was the West? It was also the same stupidity, nation, empire building, this and that. So I think after the Holocaust, the West woke up. It was like, who are we? What are we doing? Even Russia, which has its own issues, but they gave up an empire. They had a massive empire, the largest country in the world. So, in other words, the values of right and justice and love and peace and kindness are overcoming the temptations, which are usually actually based on low self-esteem, of greed and power. Questions? Esther, you're very encouraging.